The difference, though, Mike Barnicle, between the allegations against Brett Kavanaugh, memories from high school, which a lot of people didn't agree on.
Ooh, and squee.
But yeah, didn't agree on. And maybe a drunken recollection from a friend at Yale that everybody didn't agree on. And the specifics of this case, a police report, evidence of financial mismanagement in two veterans organizations, specific details of poor treatment, of abusive treatment of women, according to Pete Hegseth's own mother. And then you add on top of that a series of other very specific, very recent fact patterns that even members of Fox News told NBC News reporters, even in recent times. This is very explicit. It's very specific. It's very relevant to what's going on in the here and the now.
Joe, what we're talking about here is a perfect portrayal of the frustrating failure of the federal government, of the United States Senate, of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, of all sorts of investigatory bodies, now circling around candidates for offices that truly affect our national security. Lisa pointed out that the United States Senate has got to get its act together. They have about 3 hours to do it before the hearings begin. So we know that's not going to happen. Pete Hegseth, and Jonathan is absolutely correct, it's going to be the Brett Kavanaugh playbook. And this playbook has been in effect and operative for so many candidates for office under both administrations, actually. But the combativeness and the fight that the Republican nominees bring to the table has changed American politics slowly but surely over the past 10 years. And now it's regarded as almost normal that you have someone completely ill-equipped to be Secretary of Defense is on the precipice of becoming Secretary of Defense. Shame on us.
Well, let's wait and see. There are Republicans, again, that if you look at their past record, would have absolutely no reason to confirm this nominee. And, you know, I've spoken of Todd Young, who's very serious thinker on foreign policy and national security, and has dedicated much of his adult life to that. You have Dave McCormick, the new senator from the state of Pennsylvania, who, by the way, is not up for re-election for 6 years. But again, he campaigned talking about military culture and being raised in a military culture. So, of course, this is not somebody that Dave McCormick would ever hire for a job without extensive background checks in private sector.
And he too served.
So that's what I'm saying. He served and he would know. But you also, of course, have Joni Ernst. You take the issues that Joni Ernst has fought about, women in combat, also fighting against sexual harassment, sexual abuse. These are two issues that have been central to what Joni Ernst has tried to do to make the armed forces stronger, and specifically make the lives of women in the armed services equal and fair to men who are also serving their country. Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Mitch McConnell. I must say, I understand the cynicism. So many people are that way for great reason about Washington, D.C., but of those I named and so many others who actually care about the armed services of the United States of America and America's national security, it would be a dark day if there were not 4 Republican senators who understood that we need someone, the president needs someone, the commander-in-chief needs someone running the Pentagon that actually is up to the task of that job. And when crisis hits across the world, whether it's with China, whether it's with Russia, whether it's in the Middle East, that the president has somebody standing on guard at the Pentagon who is up to that task. there is no doubt, again, character issues aside, Mika, there is no doubt among Republicans and Democrats in the Senate, in the House, across Washington, D.C., that Pete Hegseth is not qualified to hold that position. All character questions
temperament
pushed aside.
and experience.